Welcome everybody. This is our second edition for the Unitalk from Brazil. My name is Rodrigo Scaff. I'm the Director of Studies Planet Brazil. Today we're happy to have Alberto Demo from University of Greenwich with us. And for those of you who are not familiar with this format, it's a very simple, straightforward kind of event where we have questions and answers. And hopefully we get a chance to get answers for the most popular questions we received from our students. Welcome, Alberto. It's great to have you here, and this is going to be great.
Hi, Rodrigo. Thank you so much for having me. It's great to be here.
Great. All right. So let's start. I think I will just follow the list of questions I have here, and always give you over to chance to add what's relevant here for our call. So let's start with how many nationalities can be found at Greenwich among the students. This is important for us specifically for international.
Well, we are a very diverse community. We've been working with international students for many, many years. So we really understand their needs, and we are pretty much about 25% to 30% of our total cohort is from outside of the UK, and we have students coming from about 130 countries studying with us. So yeah, one of the most international universities worldwide, and a very, very diverse community.
We know that the university's history dates back to 1891 when it started under a different name. So that's a lot of history and tradition. Can you tell us a little bit about the locations? Because I'm aware that you have 3 different campuses, and I think this is great information.
Yeah, that's right. So, so any students who are listening should be aware that University of Greenwich is based in London and in Kent. We have 3 campuses, a total of 4 faculties. 2 of the faculties, well, let's say 3 of the faculties are based in London across 2 different campuses. The main campus is the Greenwich Maritime, the one that most people will probably recognize, the one that's right behind me. And that's in southeast London, about 20 to 25 minutes from central London. And that's where we teach programs within the business faculty and the Faculty of Liberal Arts and Sciences. And then we have the Faculty of Education and Health in London as well, on a different campus, slightly further away. And then we have the Faculty of Engineering and Science, which is based in Kent. It's based in Medway, about 40 to 45 minutes by train into central London. And the reason why this is because, being engineering and science programs heavily practice based, students would need space to sort of run, study in their labs and run the experiments, and we need much more space, and that's why the campus is located further out.
Well, the next question is actually how can we get there, but I think you already mentioned, so basically either London or Kent, and when we're talking about Kent, it's about a 45-minute train ride.
Yeah, I mean, there's several airports in London that you can get to the campuses from students traveling from South America. Well, there's Heathrow, that will it's the main one really, that will take you into the Greenwich campus in about just over an hour on the underground, maybe an hour and a half. But there's the Southend Airport, there's Stansted, there's Gatwick, and all of those are very well connected to the campuses in London. And then, as I said, Medway is very well connected in terms of trains into central London. So all the 3 campuses are really easily reachable.
All right. Can you tell us a little bit about libraries and labs? You mentioned a little bit about your engineering infrastructure, but if you can talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, I mean, every campus has its own library and its own study facilities, obviously. The library at Greenwich is part of the Stockwell Street building, which was built in 2015 and nominated for an architecture award as well. It's a brand new building. The library is magnificent. It spans over 4 floors, so it's really, really big, and it's quite astonishing. Sorry, and then the library at the Avery Hill campus is also new. It was built over the pandemic, just a couple of years old, really. And then we have a library, of course, at Medway, as well as 3,000 square meters of science and engineering labs.
You mentioned the 4 faculties that you have, and I think you already mentioned location. Would you like to talk a little bit about the programs taught at each one, and basically courses?
Sure. So the two faculties based at the Greenwich campus, as I mentioned, one being the business faculty. We teach programs with both at undergraduate and postgraduate level. Within business, we teach about 40 subject areas within business. So anything from marketing to accounting, finance to human resource management to advertising, supply chain management, anything within business you can think of, entrepreneurship as well. And then within the Faculty of Liberal Arts and Sciences, that is also on the Greenwich campus, we teach humanity-based programs. So anything from English literature to history and criminology. And we also teach psychology there, even though it's part of the Faculty of Education and Health. We do public health. We do a number of subjects within the School of Design, so architecture, animation, design. A really, really diverse university in terms of what is taught. And 400 different subject areas overall. So I'm sure the students will find something that will align itself to what they're looking for exactly. And then at the Medway campus, we teach engineering and science. So any field within engineering apart from aerospace engineering and naval. So mechanical, chemical, electrical and electronic engineering, engineering management, oil and gas. And then, of course, lots of programs within science, including biology, chemistry, and biomedical sciences as well.
Great. Yeah, I'm pretty sure students will find many, many more options and have a hard time even deciding, which is great. In terms of, this is a question we get very often, is in terms of how difficult it is to be accepted, and your suggestions, your tips for a strong application, if you can talk a little bit about that.
So the courses at the university are really competitive, and they're in really high demand. So my first piece of advice would be to apply early. Because especially at postgraduate level, we've seen a massive increase in applications being received by the university. So, and we've had to close programs quite soon as a result of that. So if students are interested in applying for a course in January 2023 or September 2023, there are still a few courses open for September, but the majority, particularly at postgraduate level, are already closed. So apply early, check the entry requirements, and understand that you meet in terms of your academic qualification and your academic results what we're looking for our programs. And you can find information on the entry requirements for each country that we welcome students from, including Brazil. If students go on our web pages for Greenwich New Country, they will be able to see specific information for Brazil and other countries in South America. So as long as they meet the requirements and they provide a reference letter and a good personal statement, and they apply early, then they'll very likely be considered for a place at the university.
Great. Yeah, and this is something that we always try and reinforce, is for students to apply as early as possible for many different reasons. You don't want to be doing things under a lot of stress. You don't want to be dealing with all the documents and different exams. So always a good tip to start as early as possible. Um, in terms of the postgraduate programs, is there an age limit or pretty much flexible to any age?
Not for Brazil specifically. There isn't really any sort of age gap that we exclude people, students from. So any students of any age are welcome. A lot of our students are actually mature students, so we welcome applications from them, particularly if they've got if they're applying for a postgraduate course and they've got years of experience in the field. They are certainly welcome.
Can you talk a little bit about your application process and deadlines? I think you already mentioned that some of the programs are already closed due to high demand. So that's but talk a little bit about the process as a whole, I think. And normally students ask whether documents should be sent by via post. We know that they are familiar with UCAS, but if you can talk a little bit about the process, that would be great.
Yeah, so well, it's good that we are here on this call together because obviously Studies Planet being a really strong partner to the University of Greenwich, I recommend all students that are interested in studying at the university to get the support from Studies Planet. And the process is really fairly simple, although it may not look like it, coming from overseas, looking into the UK and the process of applying. If you're applying through UCAS, then it will mean that you're applying for an undergraduate course, and applications will open about September to October time for September next year. And the timelines, as I said, there's no outside of UCAS. UCAS will have the specific deadline to still abide by. But if students are applying through Studies Planet, or they're applying for a postgraduate course, then there's not really any specific deadline that we impose for applications, unless, of course, the program is closed. Right. And that's why we encourage applications come in early, because programs can close at any minute without any notice at all. So yeah, if they're interested in applying, making an application now for next year, maybe they should really start looking to apply in November or December, also to give themselves some time to get familiar with the whole process, to find out what it is that they need to do in terms of everything else, like accommodation, visa, and all that comes along with the whole application process. Yeah. But yeah, so if they're applying through Studies Planet, they will need to, well, first of all, decide what it is they want to apply for. It's a good idea that they come along to an open day as well to find out more information. The open days are now virtual as well, so they will be able to access them online without necessarily traveling over to London. Right. Check out the information for their program of choice online, maybe read a bit about the modules, and think about whether what they are going to study is aligned well with what they want to do in terms of their future career. And then provide academic documents to you guys, a personal statement, and a reference, and then all the personal details, of course, required to complete the application form. We heavily discourage students to send in anything via physical mail. Okay. Simply because it can easily be misplaced or lost, and also because we easily accept digital copies as well. So we accept scanned copies. So we recommend that they do that instead.
Great. Also, we always get tons of questions about scholarships, and we know those are program specific. So, but if you can talk a little bit about how scholarships work. We know that there are certain region-based scholarships versus merit-based. So if you can talk a little bit about Greenwich and scholarships.
Yeah, so the way that we offer scholarships to international applicants at the university isn't merit-based, but the only requirements that students will have to have is to be holding an offer, either conditional or unconditional, with the university. Right. For any of our intakes, either January or September. And the maximum they can be awarded is £3,000 off of their first year of studies for undergraduate programs, and up to £1,500 for their postgraduate studies. There are some exceptions. A lot of our postgraduate programs also offer a year of work placement, so a year of industrial practice. And usually students that are on those programs do not qualify for the scholarship because of the work element
Right,
of what they're
because
going
they
to
will
study.
get paid for that.
Exactly,
Okay.
yeah. But other than that, as long as they hold an offer to study with us, they simply go online. It's called the International Scholarship Award, so very easy to remember.
Right.
Very straightforward terminology that we've adopted.
Yes.
Fill out the application form, and then they'll simply have to answer a question. So it's not in any way related to their grades, or it's not in any way merit-based.
Mm-hmm.
And then there will be a panel that meet and to award up to 3,000 for UG and up to 1,500 for PG.
Talking about the post-study work visa, this is a very exciting subject. I think both in Brazil and many countries in Latin America. Now students know that they get a chance to spend time in the UK after graduating, having a very precious professional experience and experiencing the other side of life in the UK. In terms of finding a job, can you tell us a little bit about how Greenwich helps students look for a job after they graduate, and a little bit about it's an important thing for many students.
Yeah, so there's a dedicated employability support team in each of our 4 faculties, and their role is to assist students build their employability skills, like their soft skills or anything related to employability during their studies. So help them also find a placement if they're on a program that include a year of industrial practice. But also they're there to help students find a job beyond graduation. And this service is available for, I think, up to a year or more. I need to double check that, but it's a very valued service that students do find really helpful once they're studying with us, and also once they graduate. So support to find good employment is available at the university, regardless of whether you're a student or whether you recently graduated.
And still talking about the professional side of things, does the University of Greenwich help entrepreneurs in any way in terms of students who want to start their own business?
Yeah. So two teams look into this: the employability team, of course, but also the visa team, and they can help with anything from startup visas, for example, or even tier 2 visas. So yeah, absolutely, students will be able to benefit from receiving that kind of help from us too.
Can you talk a little bit about, I mean, and this is very general, but in terms of fees, like, I think, can you give us some sort of range just to give our students an idea of your fees for undergraduate programs and postgraduate programs?
So students starting a program this September or next to January, they will be paying £15,100 per year for undergraduate programs. And between 15,100 and 18,500 for postgraduate programs, depending on what it is they're going to study.
Is the area of Greenwich particularly expensive in terms of living costs? Can you share a little bit about that? But because we know that London is probably, for sure, the most expensive part of the UK. Can you tell us a little bit about Greenwich versus London or versus other parts of the country?
Yeah, so Greenwich is, I'm not going to lie, is quite a sort of sought after area, and that makes it quite expensive. But London as a whole, you know, as you can imagine, is quite expensive. It's the capital of the UK and one of the most expensive cities in the world, really. There are a couple of ways that students can look to save some money. One of the most obvious ones is to live on campus with the university. renting a room in student halls is a lot cheaper than renting a place in local area in Greenwich.
That'll be our next question, by the way. So that's great.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, there's other ways. I mean, other than really accommodation and transport, London isn't really that expensive, and of course going out. But students shouldn't really be going out every single night. So there are ways to budget and to be careful with one's money. And the food shopping is quite reasonable, reasonable in my experience anyway, and everything else in terms of leisure and sort of daily shopping isn't really that pricey. As I said, the only two things to look out for are renting and transport. But yeah, we can move on to accommodation. I can tell you a bit more about that.
Great, and and for those of you who have not gotten a chance to visit Greenwich, it's a lovely region. It's really beautiful, and so I'm pretty sure living there is quite pleasant. Still on campus accommodation, just specifically for families. Can you talk a little bit about whether there are specific facilities
no, I'm
for
afraid
families?
not. So if the students are looking to live in university provided accommodation, these are only for students.
For students, okay.
Yeah, so there's no possibility for students to bring their family over and live in accommodation, university provided accommodations with them, I'm afraid.
So anyone coming with their families should look for other options.
Privately
outside.
Rented. Yeah.
Perfect. Great. Alberto, in terms of the COVID situation, and many of our students follow our social medias, and they know that things at this point have gotten much more flexible in the UK. But is there anything they should be aware of in terms of our rules still still happening in terms of the campus? Are we still under any specific COVID rules, or is the situation completely back to normal?
I mean, not particularly. People are still being careful, of course, but all kinds of restrictions have now been lifted. The mask mandate has been removed as well. Social distancing is still encouraged, but it's not mandatory. It's not imposed anymore. And so you will see people wearing masks on campus occasionally. But the situation is a lot more relaxed. It's a lot more under control. So there's no need for such heavy restrictions as they used to be just really under a year ago now.
Next question would be entry requirements to study a postgraduate degree in University of Greenwich. I think you mentioned that already in terms of your anything else to add specifically for postgraduate degrees in terms of the admission process, or we covered that already?
So it depends on where the students are looking to apply for. I can tell you what the entry requirements are for Brazil for postgraduate programs, if that's helpful. They will be able to see this information as well if they go on the Greenwich in Your Country web pages. If they want to refer back to it at a later stage, they can do that, of course, as well. But in terms of what we ask from Brazilian applicants that want to apply for a postgraduate program. So there's programs that require an equivalent of a 2.2 in the UK and an equivalent of a 2.1. So depending on what it is that you're applying for. If you don't understand this, don't worry. I'm sure the students planner can help you and can explain that to you. But in terms of programs asking for a 2.2, we ask for a título de bachelor, so basically a bachelor's degree from Brazil with a minimum grade of 6 and a minimum grade of 7 for postgraduate programs asking for a 2.1. And obviously on top of this, we require English qualification, so an IELTS ranging from 6 to 6.5 or even 7. Depending on the program, but we also accept a number of other English qualifications, including TOEFL, Cambridge, PTE, Versant, and other most popular and still widely recognized qualifications.
All right, and we will share those specific web pages with our students as well, so they can get into detail in terms of that. And I think, yeah, our final question here is, and this one is not about your program specifically, but about restaurants and cafes. I think on campus, whether there are many options, whether there are vegan options. I think students at some point always come with those questions as well.
I mean, there's obviously catering facilities of all sorts on campus with the university, but the local area is amazing. There's so much to do, and it's got so much to offer. Plenty of cafes, restaurants, shops. There's the Greenwich Market, which is amazing. It's on every weekend, and there's lots to enjoy there as well. And of course, students will be able to travel into central London quite easily. London is a massive city, super interesting, with lots to offer. So I'm sure they'll have the time of their lives living there.
Well, that is fantastic, Alberto. I think we managed to cover all questions. I just wanted to give you a chance to share anything else you may feel students from Brazil and from Latin America should know about Greenwich, if there's anything else you would like to add.
I will say you're really going to enjoy your time at Greenwich. We're a very close-knit community. Everybody is super supportive. There's lots of different services in terms of how we support our students. And so if you're interested in making an application to us, please do check out our website, have a look at the programs that we offer. And do you go to Studies Planet? They provide an excellent service, and they will be able to support you throughout the application journey, from the point of making an application all the way to getting your visa and enrolling successfully with us at the university.
Great. Well, thank you very much again, Alberto. It was great to have you here today. For our students, after watching this video, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask your questions, additional questions. We will be answering anything, and we will be getting in touch with Alberto if needed, so our students can have a full and clear view about the whole process. Thanks again, Alberto.
Amazing.
We'll be in touch. And
thank you, Rodrigo, for having me. Amazing. Have a good evening. Cheers. Bye-bye.
Have a good day.